Claude has just analysed your spending and delivered a detailed report of recommendations. You're looking at categories, percentages, and suggestions. But here's the £1,000,000 question. What should you actually do with all this information? Not every AI recommendation deserves the same attention. Some insights will be genuinely transformative. Others might be technically correct, but practically useless. And occasionally, Claude will sometimes get things wrong. In this module, I'm going to teach you how to think critically about AI advice and turn those insights into a personal action plan that actually works for your life. Let's establish our framework. Trust, but verify. We can trust Claude to do the mathematical heavy lifting, spotting patterns and organising our information. But we verify whether its recommendations make sense for our specific situation, values, and goals. Claude doesn't know that your expensive coffee shop visits are actually important networking meetings, or that your irregular gym payments reflect a seasonal sport that you really love. Claude's output typically falls into three categories in this area. First, mathematical facts. Things like you spent £487 on groceries last month, or transport costs 15% of your income. These are usually reliable if your data was clean. Second, pattern observations. Spending increases at month end, or entertainment costs peaked in December. Generally trustworthy, but worth contextualising. And third, behavioural recommendations. Reduce restaurant spending or cancel unused subscriptions. This is where we need to be most critical. Here are the red flags that should make you pause. When Claude recommends cutting spending that's important to your well-being or relationships. When it suggests eliminating all fun spending to maximise savings, that's a recipe for budget burnout. When it treats irregular but necessary expenses as overspending, like an annual insurance payment or a quarterly professional development course. And when it recommends major lifestyle changes based on limited data. 3 months of your spending doesn't capture your entire financial picture. Here's an example of genuinely helpful AI advice from my own analysis. You have 3 streaming subscriptions costing £42 monthly, but the usage patterns that I know about suggest you primarily use one service. Consider keeping your most used service and cancelling the others. That would save you approximately £28 every month. This is good advice because it's specific, based on data and includes the financial impact, offers a clear action without making any lifestyle judgments. Now here's more questionable advice. Your coffee shop spending of £89 a month is excessive and should be eliminated to improve your budget. Why is this problematic? It assumes that all coffee purchases are wasteful without understanding your context. Maybe these happen during important work meetings or represent your only weekly social interaction. Perhaps you're supporting a local business you care deeply about. The recommendation ignores the non-financial value. And here's genuinely concerning advice I've seen Claude give. Reduce your grocery budget by 40% and eliminate all entertainment spending to maximise your savings. This is dangerous because it's unsustainable. Extreme budget cuts typically lead to budget failure and financial stress. Good budgeting is about balance and sustainability, not financial deprivation. The key insight: context is everything. That £89 coffee spending might be excessive for someone struggling with debt, but perfectly reasonable for someone building up business relationships. This is why AI gives recommendations, not commands. You're the expert on your own life. Here's my 4-step filter for turning AI insights into action. First, does this align with my values? If Claude suggests cutting something important to you, question whether the savings are worth it. Second, is this realistic for my lifestyle? Recommendations that require major habit changes often fail. Third, what's the actual impact? £5 worth of monthly savings might not be worth the effort. And fourth, does this feel sustainable? Changes that you can maintain long term are more valuable than dramatic short term cuts. I recommend the 135 rule for acting on AI recommendations. Implement one change immediately, something simple and obvious, like cancelling that subscription you forgot about. Plan 3 changes for this month or perhaps quarter, maybe consolidating services, adjusting your spending categories or similar. And then start to consider 5 changes for the future, bigger shifts that might take time to implement properly. This prevents overwhelm whilst maintaining momentum. Sometimes Claude simply makes mistakes. I have seen it miscategorize, for example, medical expenses as entertainment, counting the same transaction twice, or missing patterns in seasonal spending. If something feels off, trust your instincts. Go back to your original statements and double check. Remember, you know your financial life better than any AI. This analysis shouldn't be a one and done exercise. Consider doing this quarterly, often enough to catch trends, but not so often that you become obsessive. Your spending patterns will evolve, and your budget should evolve with them. Use Claude to track whether changes you've made are actually working. Think of AI budget analysis like GPS navigation. It can tell you where you are, suggest routes to your destination, and alert you when you're off track. But you still decide where you want to go, whether to take the suggested shortcuts, and when to make stops along the way. The AI provides information, but you make the journey. The goal isn't to follow every AI recommendation blindly or to ignore them completely. It's to use AI insights as one input into your financial decision making, balanced with your personal knowledge, values, and circumstances. In our final module, we'll talk about graduating from this AI-assisted approach to more sophisticated tools and when to speak to professional financial advisors. We'll cover resources specific to the Isle of Man and how to continue your financial education journey. Remember, AI provides insights, you make the decisions. But now you know how to make some of those decisions wisely. See you in Module 6.